quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. It's where we all began. Welcome to Lazy Dog Typewriters. Howdy folks, and welcome back to Lazy Dog Typewriters. We've been on somewhat of a little journey and have moved ourselves into a new doghouse. And we thought what better way to get started in our new digs than to give you a quick review of a tower, make that Sears President 12. This is a gorgeous black and gold machine with some white and some blue highlights, made by Smith Corona for Sears, and it's just after Sears dropped using the Tower brand and started using its own name, as you can see Sears and the classic boxed in logo for their typewriter. So sort of a brand reinvention for Sears, and we're in a bit of a brand reinvention ourselves here at the new doghouse in McKinney, Texas. So it's kind of funny because I have found that just by pure accident, I seem to be focusing on the year 1964. It's like one of those fatal, not Fatal Attraction, but Final Destination movies where something keeps reoccurring over and over and it's fated to happen. Hopefully not as sinister as the Final Destination movies, but it's interesting because what we have here is like I say, a late model, improved 5 series, if you will, the transition between the 5 and the 6 with this custom body style. I really like it. I like this almost Star Trekian, if you will, angular chevron carved into the top of the ribbon cover. And I like the fact that this machine, the President 12, has just about every bell and whistle that you could hope for in a machine made in 1964. So what are those bells and whistles? Well, let's get started. One of the things you can see right off the bat, you got a lot of red on this black and gold typewriter. So what are these red things denote? The number one thing is, pun intended, the number 1 and exclamation mark key. It's red because it's a change of type key. So you can lift the ribbon cover up for those of you who are new. And right here you'll see a slightly different looking type slug. That slug can be pulled on and removed, as can this one on the right side, the plus equals key, and replaced with a changeable type key slug. And that's a real nifty, and it was there to start kind of combating the IBM Selectric golf ball typewriters, which allowed you to change the entire typeface in a single hand. So Sears and Smith Corona introduced changeable type and or change a type for Smith Corona's branding capabilities. So that's why these things here are in red. Also, to kind of get your attention, we have another key over here with a paragraph symbol on it. Well, what does that do? Well, it indents 5 spaces for a paragraph, and that's what the spacing was that you're supposed to use. We kind of forget that nowadays. We still argue about 2 spaces after a period, but you were supposed to put 5 spaces to indent a paragraph for every new paragraph. Speaking of indentation, we also have a 1/2 key over here on the left. So 1/2. If you press that key down, it will only register a half space in your escapement as it moves the escapement forward. Normally if you press a key it gives you a full space, but if you press the half key it gives you a half space. Therefore, if you had made a mistake and you had left a letter out, you could erase the word and then go back in and squeeze an extra letter in. It didn't do any correction for you, but it did give you a chance to redeem yourself. All right, the last thing you can do up here with this little red ball up here, it's not Minority Report, but you have a red ball and an H and an L. The H is high, the L is low, and that is your touch selector. It regulates the spring, which controls the tension on the typewriter, which adjusts a little bit the tension you feel when typing on the keys. All right, one of the other big noticeable things about this typewriter, besides the Lazy Dog typewriter branding and the perfectly timed drop of the postcard, is that we have a 12-inch carriage. So you have a wide carriage, and that gives you the versatility of being able to type in portrait or landscape orientation on your correspondence or working on a spreadsheet, what have you. You've got your standard paper support, dog ears, which come up. all your usual accoutrement. We've got a paper bale with a nice 3 rollers, and you have your page set on the left, which will let you count down how much space you have, how many lines you have remaining on your paper. So it's a page gauge, I should say. If you want to go into freewheeling mode, moving the camera over, you, as always, just pull out this knob, and now you can freewheel and set your platen where you want it to be. That's great for using on forms if you need to be on a specific line. You've got 1, 2, and 3 line selection. In the next year or so, they would switch to 1, 1.5, and 2 and get rid of the 3. I asked around once. The 3 apparently was, 3 line spacing was used for copy editing, especially for journalists and editors. They would use giant spacing so they could go back in there and edit the stories that they did. And if you know of any others who use that, let me know. You've got your margin selectors here. You push and slide to set your margins. And you have your quick release platen. If you just lift up the paper bale, lift up this lever here, then you can push this lever. Push this lever here and remove your platen very easily. That's great for cleaning your platen, but you don't really need to do it very often. All right, you have your ruler, which we have noted underneath. It matches the ruler up above. You notice it goes to 110. So normally when you see a number above 90, just out of habit, people think, oh, that must be elite. But because, remember, we have a 12-inch carriage and it only goes to 110, that tells us it can't be elite because elite's 12 characters per inch. So it should be 120 or more. But what the mystery revealed is we have what Sears called presidential pica, and I'll give you a shot of that typeface in a minute. It's a little bit different. It kind of threw me off initially than standard pica. It's a nice typeface. I really like it, and it does fit, obviously, the President 12. Okay, so let's get set up for a typing test to give you a quick and dirty overview of the Sears President 12 and hopefully give you a sense of why you might like it. Before we do that, I guess I should say this typewriter, for whatever reason, maybe it's the color combination or just the angular nature of it, it just has a very masculine aspect. I don't know. It does make me think of the famous Marilyn Monroe, a Happy Birthday, Mr. President song she sang to John F. Kennedy, which wouldn't have been much more than a year or two before this one was made. So maybe that's what the designers were thinking of when they did this, an homage to President Kennedy. Of course, he would have moved on to other bigger and better things by 64. But let's see what we can do moving on to bigger and better things and doing a quick typing test of the Sears President 12. Well, clearly we are a bit rusty because we just did an entire typing test but forgot to press the record button. So I'll start off with the typeface. This is what they call presidential pica. It looks just a little bit, I'd say smaller and maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say senatorial, but which is because it's presidential, of course, but it has a bit of an aspect of a senatorial typeface on an Olympia. In any case, I like it a lot. And since we're talking about presidents, and I've already typed the Quick Brown Fox pangram, let's do another one from another famous president. 407 years ago, our fathers brought forth onto this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty. And sorry if that's shaking. I guess these words themselves are earth-shaking and therefore deserve a little bit of shaking. But I guess the takeaway from this particular presidential proclamation, if you will, important though it is that the Sears and Smith Corona branded Sears machines like this, of this era, really were operating at the peak of Smith Corona design for manual typewriters. It's just an absolutely smooth, responsive, comfortable typing experience. The citations of this era and also the President 12, which I believe I just went into, which is the premium version or premium edition with the all the red functionality and the 12-inch carriage, really were great typing machines, and they were there to compete, and they dominated the domestic market here in the US. A really wide, comfortable spacebar. I particularly like that. I don't know how many really exotic machines I've tried, Letter has come to mind, that have really tiny little space bars, and it gets fatiguing on your thumb. I know, first world problems, but it's really nice to have a big, broad, plastic, comfortable space bar because you hit it so often as you're typing. So I've given you nothing really but pros. I don't think there's anything not to like about this machine. I did say it has a bit of a masculine aspect, so maybe that's why it appeals to me so much, but it's just an all-around excellent typewriter for anyone, masculine or feminine, president or senator, and I hope that you think the same, and we'd love to share more of these with you in the future. And maybe we'll move off of the citation president design, but only if we can't find any more. Thanks so much for joining us from the new Lazy Dog Typewriters.
Please like, subscribe, and share.